following program has been pre-recorded so we can have time to make our getaway. See you later, dog. Cinemas. Get the picture? It's prime time with George Durunda. Tonight, more behind the scenes here at Showcase with John Lowe and giant cats over at Southwick'S Zoo. Plus, Jimmy STURR and the Jimmy STURR Band. So get ready for the most entertaining show on television. Welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining us here this evening. I'm George, and I'm the host for our little program here tonight. And, I don't know if you've heard, but they plan at the White House to open up a Burger King right on the grounds of the White House. Can you believe that? I understand their slogan's going to be billions and billions of Whoppers told here. Hey, but anyway, we have a great show, so let's get right on. My first guest knows more about the motion picture business than most people will ever forget. Hey, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the big program, Showcase Cinema's own John Lowe. Well, John, welcome to Prime Time.
Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here at Showcase Cinemas. And they tell me you have all the answers. You've been in the motion picture movie theater business for a number of years.
Since 1942.
And what was your first job when you entered the business?
At the Calvin Theater in Northampton as an usher for 25 cents an hour.
You were an usher for 25 cents an hour?
Right.
And what did it cost to go see a movie back then?
50 cents. 50 cents for a first-run movie, 44 cents up in the balcony, and 55 cents in the smoking lounge. And there was a 10-cent government tax on that at the time, so the price was actually 10% higher.
So they charged you more to smoke?
Yes.
But those were the days
that was a lower balcony.
Those were the days when you could smoke in the
theaters. That's right, before the Coconut Grove fire.
Did you work your way up at the Calvin?
Yes, I was an assistant manager at the Calvin in about a year and a half, and then I went over to the Plaza in Northampton, which is closed now, as a manager when I was 17. And I was there for about a year till I went into service into the Air Corps at Lowry Field, and I ran theaters there for a year and a half.
Now, some people might think that 44 cents, 55 cents to see a movie, but to put that in perspective, we were looking at one of the earlier ads, and you could buy a car for $600.
Yeah, you could buy a loaf of bread for a dime. You could get 2 packs of cigarettes for a quarter. And gasoline was 13 or 14 cents a gallon. So, I mean, 50 cents, 55 cents was still a lot of money.
So it was all relative
to
pretty much
to
the same scale of prices that we have today.
Exactly.
And then you had some work over at the Capitol Theater in Springfield?
No, actually, what happened then, after when I got out of service in the Air Corps, I went back to the Calvin and back to the Plaza as manager, and then I went up to Greenfield, to the Garden Greenfield in 1950. And I was manager up there for about 4 years, and then I became a district manager for Goldstein for Western Mass Theaters. And we had a lot of theaters: Victory, Holyoke, Suffolk, Holyoke, Calvin in Northampton, Paramount in Brattleboro, Garden Greenfield, Paramount in Springfield, Bijou in Holyoke, Bing in Springfield, Paramount.
So they were chains similar to what we have today?
That's right, chain of 14 theaters owned by Samuel Goldstein.
And what kind of promotions did you used to run in those days?
Well, we did almost everything. The theaters like Greenfield were the key theater in the town. We'd run kiddie shows on Saturdays. pencil box shows. We'd give the kids a free pencil box just before school in September, actually the end of August.
Late August.
And get a merchant to sponsor that and put a little label on the school box. We'd have Hostess cupcake shows where you'd give the kid a twin pack of Hostess cupcakes. We had paydays, which the kids would receive a little envelope, and in the envelope would be a nickel and a penny and a dime, or all sorts of combinations of things. It was like a lottery almost. So every kid got a pay envelope. We had cartoon shows, of course, where they would see 2 features, usually a Western and an action picture, 10 cartoons, a cereal, and a newsreel, all for sometimes 9 cents or 25 cents or 35 cents, depending upon what the prices were at the time.
So unlike today, where you go in and you see a feature, you had an afternoon's worth of entertainment.
Yeah, there was double features right up into the 50s, into the mid-50s, where the first-run theaters played 2 pictures, and 2 pictures in a newsreel and a couple of shorts, depending upon the running times of the shows. During the war, in the 44, 42, 43, 44, they did play certain pictures as single features with a couple of shorts. They did that primarily because these were big box office pictures like Action in North Atlantic, Casablanca, things like that. And they did it so we could run an extra show and get more people in. The problem in those days was how to fit all the people into the theater, because you had a tremendous amount of people that were free. They had gas rationing, so they had an A card, and they used to take buses instead of cars, and they had defense jobs. So we would run a Friday morning show at 10 o'clock in the morning and run continuous from 10 o'clock in the morning to get that, what we call an early bird show. Or we would run late shows. All the Springfield downtown first-run theaters in those days were running from 9:30 in the morning, 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning, every day, except on Sunday, because Sunday you had a blue law at the time, you couldn't open until 1 o'clock.
So in those days, parking downtown was not a problem because not too many people were driving cars anyway.
There were by the Paramount Theater, behind the Paramount Theater was a place called Leo's Auto Park, and there were parking garages, but the bulk of the people came by bus or public transportation or however they got there. We didn't seem to ever know. In Northampton at the Calvin, we had about 6 car parking places behind the building in the alley. We had some parking places on Main Street, but most of the people, we don't know where the 1,800 people came from, but they came evidently by bus or walked or whatever.
And then Showcase Cinemas opened in 1964.
Well, I went with Showcase in 1962 in September, and we built our first theater, Redstone Theaters. We built our first theater in downtown Worcester. Not in downtown Worcester so much as off of Main Street. It was an old theater that they converted, and they actually didn't convert it in the sense of today. They just rebuilt it. They tore the whole thing down and left a shell of the 2 side walls and the rear wall, and they put a new roof on it and built the whole thing over as a very luxurious, what we call art house type cinema, with 660 seats. It's a single house, and we were coming right in playing first-run pictures. Well, within a few weeks, we had The Longest Day as a road show. We had Lawrence of Arabia and My Fair Lady, things like Dr. Zhivago. And of course, we started doing tremendous business. Now, we charged $1.50 at the time, and we were 25 cents higher than the downtown first-run houses. They were all charging $1.25, and we were charging $1.50.
Could you explain what is a road show?
Well, a road show is an opportunity for you to buy your tickets in advance, which could assure you of a specific seat rather than just a seat.
So in those days, you had assigned seating.
We had reserved seats. When you do a performance like that, a roadshow performance, there's usually only 2 showings. one in the afternoon at 2 and one at night at 8. And you run a matinee on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And during a no-school period, you would run a matinee daily. This would be for a picture like Sound of Music, for example. And people liked road shows. We charged $2 and $2.50 in the early road shows. And we were playing it at the same time it was in Boston. It was an exclusive run, which meant that when we played a road show here in Springfield, it was not available for Greenfield, Pittsfield. The closest place you could see it would be
It was
Hartford.
exclusive, and you were usually opening around the same date as the film would open in
That's
major
right.
markets such as New York or
That's
Boston.
right. And usually we had a 70mm presentation, which was a super wide film, and we had a 6-track stereophonic sound, which was part of the equipment that you had to have in order to play these road shows. Later on, they came out for the normal theaters about a year later. And they were very popular, and we would sell tickets in advance and do a lot of group sales, fundraising benefits, theater parties, school morning shows, and things of that nature. And it was a very prestigious type operation, a lot unlike the grind-away pictures that we have now. Although there is a period of time, where we were playing a roadshow picture in one house, and in our twin house, something else, a commercial film.
So attending a movie in those days was an event.
Yes, that was one of our slogans that we coined, where movie going is an event. And as I showed you in some of the pictures we looked at when we were talking about the show, everybody dressed up to go to the movies. The women were all dressed in their skirts and coats, and the men were dressed up in their suits. Nobody came in jackets and jeans. I mean, it would be the lone stranger. They would look at you and say, who is this guy? But anyway, that was the way it was. And the people really enjoyed going out to a show. And although they still do today, it was a lot different in those. Of course, we played to a lot more of an adult audience, too. Not because the pictures were adult, but it seemed to be that they had more appeal. For some reason, we didn't get as many teenagers as we do now.
And today, the teenagers seem to outweigh the adults.
Well, they have been up until just the past 2 years, and now the pendulum is swinging back again. They're making more and more pictures for adults, not necessarily adult-themed pictures like Basic Instinct, but just pictures that adults would like to see, like Fried Green Tomatoes and On Golden Pond and things like that, and the new pictures like Scent of a Woman, which now are crossing over to both audiences, to the adults and the teenagers and young college kids. People are getting more educated as far as what they want to see. They want to see better pictures again now.
We looked at a picture with the little girl from The Sound of Music that you had
Oh,
here.
yes, yes.
And she came around and did a promotion for one of the
Yes.
films.
Many times they would send people that were not superstars like Elizabeth Taylor, but they were people that had parts in the film. For example, one was the girl in Sound of Music, the small little girl in Sound of Music, who came around on the second reissue of Sound of Music, and our job was to take her to the television stations and the radio stations in Springfield and in Hartford and in New Haven, and get promotion from these pieces and have her interviewed and so forth. There wasn't as much television interviews or interviewers or movie shows as there is now. There's a tremendous amount of shows now and a great interest in film. But Disney used to send girls around also, Miss Disneyland.
Miss Disneyland.
Or Miss Disney World, whichever. And we would take these people to the same groups. But also Disney sent out Annette Fonsanello, who we had, Roy Williams, who was the big cartoonist, Jimmy Dodd, who played the ukulele in the Mouseketeers show. And we would go into the schools. We would get a call from the coast, and they would say they would be into Greenfield, for example, on the 5th of September, and they would like to go to as many schools as they could. They would meet us at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would have 12 or 14 schools lined up for them. And we'd get in the car and off we'd go, and we would hit 8 schools in one morning and 8 schools in the afternoon. And the sisters and the teachers would have the kids already in an assembly or in one of the bigger rooms, and Roy or Jimmy Dodd would have this big sketch pad with black charcoal, and they would sit down in front of the kids, and they would start, and they had their Mousquetaire hat on and a Mousquetaire shirt, and they would start drawing. And they would go up to the sister and say, "What is your name, sister?" And they would put her initials, and out of that they'd draw a velvet caricature of the sister. And this big sheet, they would give it. So they would do about, I would say, 50 or 60 sketches like that in one day. And of course the kids would just go crazy about these things. And when they left at night, and they would do that for 5 days a week for a period of a month before one of their Disney films.
So the motion picture companies did a lot more to promote films
at grassroots level. Now, of course, the television, they can go on a couple of big shows and cover the whole country in a couple of big shows. But
before it was a more personal...
It was more personal. It was, I can remember Deborah Paget. We had a promotion, Movies Are Better Than Ever. And they came from Boston, and we hit about 10 towns. This was in the summer. And Deborah Paget and Robert Wagner. Now, these were just new names at the time. She was in Broken Arrow, the Jimmy Stewart picture, as the Indian girl. And Robert Wagner was in Between Heaven and Hell. But they were just starting. They were Fox contract players. And there was a screenplay writer and a small minor director. And we went to Greenfield, Athol, Orange, places, Fitchburg.
Places where today you'd never find a superstar.
That's right, you'd never find anybody. And we would get 50 or 100 people at a little luncheon or just a reception or a place for stop for coffee and donuts. They just did a tremendous amount of publicity to fight the television inroads and things like that, which later on they came to use. But at those days they were fighting against it, you know.
Well, we are just about out of time this time on Primetime, and thanks for being here. We will have you back real soon.
Thanks.
And stick around. We'll be back with more Primetime fun right after this.
What are you doing this weekend that's so important you can't take a little time to test your home for radon? After all, it is the second leading cause of lung cancer, and a radon test kit is inexpensive. You could pick one up on your way to get a few things for the yard.
Welcome back to the big program, as we call it here on... Wait, I can't do that. See, that's not me. By the way, kids, if you want to learn something about how to be on television, how to speak correctly on television, watch this show. Soon it may be an accredited course. A half hour of prime time every week. You will gain your daily requirements for anything you want to know about speaking on television. And hey, by the way, it's time for the 6th-time Grammy Award winner, Jimmy STURR, and the Jimmy STURR Band. But he didn't win a Grammy this year, so he's only, second place in back of Aretha Franklin for all-time top consecutive Grammy Awards. But here he is anyway, Jimmy STURR and the Jimmy STURR Band. 6 Grammys.
Hold on, everybody, let's do a little hand clapping. Right after that, we've got more with the Versatones. Freddie Valinsky and the Brass Works will be here. In the meantime, brand new. Come on, do a little hand clapping. Go. music today. Take heed, you people on the outside. Your music might be here today. Tomorrow might be somewhat different, but ours is really here to stay. Ole, 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 ole. Polka music today. 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 Here we go!
Please don't be frightened. We'll be returning in a couple of minutes.
Yo, Alf here. Apparently some chowderheads out there aren't taking care of this planet. They're messing up public lands. They're littering the beaches and vandalizing the parks. Look, folks, public lands are not like pizzas. You just can't pick up the phone and order more. So let's take care of our land. Let's save the planet. Call me and promise you'll help. I'll send you a bunch of neat stuff. It's my way of saying thanks. It's an acknowledgement of your concern. It's a bribe.
Welcome back to the big program, and we're here at Showcase Cinemas. We're in the projection booth. This is something they call a platter. We learned all about that on the last episode here of Primetime. And hey, where can you go to see something that weighs hundreds of pounds, has big teeth, and eats large amounts of raw meat every day? No, not over to Chiquette's house for a barbecue. We should head over to Southwick Zoo with our friend Aaron and look at some really big cats.
So tell us about the big cats we see here.
Well, we have a white tiger over there. He's relatively rare for tigers. He's not albino, he's white. And we have a normal orange tiger, Bengal tiger. They're indigenous to India. The white tiger's a male, the other's a female. Not as of yet breeding.
Now,
we hope to.
Now, the white Bengal tiger, are they endangered in any way?
They're not so much endangered as rare. I mean,
We don't see them around too often.
No, they're a rare cat.
Is it because of their white color that they're...
Well, in the wild, the white color is an advantage, is a disadvantage for survival, because they aren't camouflaged like they would normally be, and they fall prey to other animals more often than they would normally be.
So they don't blend in with the surroundings?
No, not at all. Which is why you don't see too many white tigers.
And what kind of food do they eat?
Oh, they eat meat, all kinds of meat. We feed them here.
They don't eat bananas like the other animals.
No,
around.
they don't eat bananas. They don't like bananas at all. They eat a Hamburg type substance here that we feed them.
So it's an all beef diet.
Yeah, it's all beef. They don't get any vegetables or fruit. It's all meat. We feed them twice a week. Oh, we're moving them up to 3 times a week now as we're going into the winter. And they get fed about 50 pounds a week meat in total.
And how long can one of these animals live?
They can live up to 25 years. They can live 25 years. Longer in captivity than in the wild. They're nice cats, though.
Do you ever have to get in the cage with them?
No, we don't go in with them. That's a little too risky.
And what's the difference between the lions and tigers?
The lions, they're a little bit bigger, heavier. The lions have a mane. The male lions have a mane. And lions come from Africa, and you won't find any tigers in Africa.
So it's basically their place of origin.
Yeah, they don't cohabitat.
What would happen if they're both part of the cat family?
Yeah.
If you did put them together?
I don't know.
Would it be World War III or?
I don't know. We'd have to try it to see what happens, but you never know. It could go either way.
Is their diet basically the same as?
Yep, it's the same as the tigers.
Solid meat, kind of like my diet.
Yeah.
Wonder if they like pizza.
I don't know. We never tried pizza.
And in the wintertime?
In the wintertime, they stay right here. They play in the snow. They enjoy it.
Really?
Yep. At one time, lions were found in Europe. They no longer are, but that just shows you that they can take the weather. The winter isn't a problem for them. They sleep most of the day away.
So let's see, they have my kind of diet
Yep.
and my kind of activities.
Yeah. Maybe you should go in there with them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've had way too much fun here at Showcase Cinemas. It's time to go and see another movie. We must now leave the air. Good night, everyone.
We pledged our allegiance to it when we were young.
The flag was still there.
We studied its importance when we were in our teens.
He saw the flag.
We sing its praises at every sporting event. We display it when we celebrate.
Present. Huh.
Lower it when we mourn.
Our flag is presented on behalf of a grateful nation.
And honor our heroes with it when they've fallen. The flag of the United States of America. It stands for what we are and what we believe in. How we treat it says a lot about us.
You know, Piggy, everybody's trying to save energy. What can we do? Don't waste electricity.
You can make a difference. Write National Wildlife Federation, Washington, D.C. 20036.